Morning, guys. Morning. I need to clean my desk today. I'm sitting here and I'm like, I can't find what I want. I was going to try to find some quotes. And my desk is a mess. It is such a mess. And it's actually kind of funny. It's actually kind of funny. Watch this. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how messy my desk is. I don't know if I want to show you how messy my desk is. This is like intimate, but look at this. Look at this. Like, there's that stack. And then there's all that right there. But notice, there's coffee. There's coffee. So, at least I have coffee, right? But, did you notice that on my desk, I have a happy bunny? I have a happy bunny. It's not my happy bunny. It's actually a present from my daughter, who just recently broke up with her boyfriend. I thought she needed a happy bunny. She probably does. She probably does. Yeah. So, we're not talking happy bunnies though this morning. Okay, that could be an interesting conversation. Maybe I'll talk about that on my Relationship Tuesday vlog. I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about that then. But that's not what conscious coffee is about. I try to, oh my goodness, I'm like throwing my hair this direction. All right, hold on, guys. You need just a sec. Okay. So, yeah, I just woke up and I'm like, okay, I think that sometime today I'm going to clean my desk. And some of the things on my to-do list today probably runs right around needing to clean my desk because I've got to get a kid a passport and I've got to find another kid some paperwork for graduation, and it's not on my desk. Actually, this is just like a mess of just me trying to do a massive amount of work in about the last 2 weeks and having family in town and everything. So it is time every couple weeks I have to clean my desk. But so today's topic, let me get a sip of coffee here. Today's topic is just like can't get comfortable, I guess, is that relationship boundaries can be bullshit. Okay, so I was thinking about this and it just actually stemmed, I was going to read you guys a text, but never mind, I'm on my phone. So I can't read you something during a live, right? Especially when I'm using my phone. Anyways, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I haven't even finished a cup of coffee yet. But it started because as I was walking down the stairs and I was smelling the coffee and I'm like, yes, I'm so grateful that I made coffee last night. I was doing my gratitude list still. And then I looked at I turned the light on my phone so that I could make sure that I was going to step right coming down the stairs. Last thing I needed was to like take a little tumble or something because I was really, I slept hard last night. But I fell asleep on the floor last night. That was interesting. I was trying to watch a show and I fell asleep on the floor and got woke up. I'm like, go to bed. Okay, I should go to bed. But I woke up this morning to my daughter, who's naughty bunny that is, and well, she doesn't know about the naughty bunny, but it'll be hers in the near future. But I woke up and she had texted me about she wants me to reach out to her ex-boyfriend who just moved back here and they broke up, and long story that we're not going to get into because it's her intimacies and her bullshit. But the gist of it is that as I was reading that text, I realized it just kind of came through like there's so many things, and I was thinking about like her text and her request to me to reach out to him, and in her comment of, I know he doesn't really deserve it, Mom, but can you please help? I had a couple things come through because I'm like, I am upset with him and I'm this and I'm that. So I instantaneously, my ego popped up and went whoop, boom, right? It was just like, I'm not going to do that. And that little shit, I'm going to like tell him off and blah, blah, blah. And then I came back down really quick. And I was like, you know, care for him. I love him. So that unconditional love factor did kick in. Unconditional love factor did kick in. And that's kind of where this, I think, stemmed from. So as I was pouring my coffee, I'm thinking about titles. And we came up with relationship boundaries are bullshit. And here's the thing. This is multitude on different stuff going on. Some might think that I'm going to talk about like the boundaries within the relationship, which kind of, sort of, but not really. And we're not talking necessarily about like taking a monogamous relationship and turning it into an open relationship or something like that. But the boundaries that we put into our relationships, we have in so many different ways. So like we create these boundaries that even within an intimate relationship, there's these boundaries in there that should be there, some that should be there, but often those don't get discussed. I work with couples all the time and I'll say, what are your boundaries? And they won't know what that word even means. So a lot of the stuff that I do is to work around like having boundaries in that relationship and learning what those are. But then we have these silent boundaries of not discussing our needs, our desires, not being able to talk about certain things. So here we are in this intimate relationship with somebody, but we're not having intimate conversation. And we're not sharing our authentic selves, our needs. And then we let our egos consistently trip us and cause us to have judgment within that relationship consistently. So we're constantly holding back and judging and being critical and, just very reactive within the relationship. That's the boundaries that I'm calling bullshit on this morning, is these false boundaries on being authentic, on being truthful, and having a state of just wanting to love somebody. Because we have these things where we want to love somebody, but then we get wrapped up into the shoulds of, my sister did this and I'm doing this and I should do that. So we're looking at everybody else's relationships, and it's kind of like we try to create a relationship that is okay with society. So we bring that attitude, that energy into that relationship instead of just having our relationship. And this is where we kind of we're creating false boundaries. We're putting things in boxes. We're labeling the relationship, and we're making it like, this is what we can talk about, this is what we can do, this is what it should look like, this is how the reactions that are going to take place in this box, this is that. And we keep everything else to the side, internal, shut it down, don't discuss it. And then like in an intimate relationship, often, you got a friendships will just die off. You don't ever talk to the person again. You end up in a great big fight, and it's like, oh my God, who are you? And the relationship fades and goes away. In intimate relationships, sometimes sure that can happen, but often people will connect their lives up, and then you have bills together and kids together and all this different stuff, so you can't just quite break the relationship apart that easily. And in that case, what a lot of people do is they just kind of shut up and they go with it, and then all of a sudden through the years it'll seem as though there's this personality switch that happens, and normally then 10, 15 years down the road, sometimes sooner, sometimes later, these people end up in with coaches, therapists, counselors. And I see them sitting in my office, and one of them will say, I don't know what happened. You know, everything was fine the first 3 years of our relationship, and this was great, and that was great, and blah 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 blah. But then she was not the person that I got with. So there's like this change that'll happen, and some of that deals with like new relationship energy. So NRE is what that's referred to in short. A new relationship energy is something that we experience in all relationships, but in our intimate relationships, we get caught up in this. Is where we're totally fascinated with our lover, our partner, and we're totally into them, and we're just, it's like everything, and they can do no wrong. We don't see their humanness. We have them so far up on a pedestal that we just don't see their humanness. And connection is hot, and you know, like we're typically more sexual. We're more enthusiastic, excited. We're sharing. We're really inquiring, and we're sharing a lot more in those times. And that's all that new relationship energy, and we're just the turn-ons there. But then, typically within 3 years, that new relationship energy starts to die off, and you start to actually meet the person that you're with. So you get familiar with who that is. So it's like, if you're just one of these people that just like jumps into a relationship, know that for the first 3 years, you're definitely, and if you're not seeing a lot of each other, that can last a lot longer. But the more close and intimate you guys actually get, that new relationship energy will typically die off in about 3 years. Will start to fade. And then if you can make it through the next part, now you're on that. But here's the thing, in those spaces, we also, it's kind of like we want to experience our partner, we want to experience that other person. So our boundaries are a lot less in that time frame too. So we're not necessarily going, this is my boundary, this is my boundary, this is my boundary on the outside. But then on the inside, we probably have a lot more boundaries going on, because we're painting a picture. So we have these internal boundaries. So our partner is doing something, and we are creating boundaries within ourselves. Okay, so it's our boundaries for ourselves. Like, oh, well, I'm not going to share that with him because I don't want him to see me first thing in the morning without makeup on. That kind of thing. I don't want, I'm not going to share this because, well, I'm not going to let like for us women, what do? We have our periods, and we get hormonal, and we get distant, and we get moody, and we might be super critical. And for the most part, what we do is we don't let that out too early on in a relationship, because we don't want to scare the person that we're dating. So we're like, no, I'm not going to. It's like the woman who won't go out on a date with a new guy when she's on her period, because she's going to be a little bit more emotional. And that might cause him to go, what's wrong? Are you okay? And we don't want to explain, so we just don't go out on a date. So we just go, I'm not feeling good, or no, or we schedule dates around other times. This is these boundaries inside of us, preventing ourselves from being our authentic selves with the people in our lives. So we're avoiding showing up however we are in that moment. So we're just literally not physically showing up in those moments. We just avoid those times. But then you go, 3 years down the road typically, and all of a sudden you're probably more interlocked, more together if you made it that long. And then that new relationship energy starts to die down, and guess what? The real you starts to come out. So now your friend, your partner here is going to experience you for real. So might get a little taste of those emotions. And you can say, oh, that's not me. I'm showing up 100% authentic in all my relationships. I'm always like, I don't give a shit. I just speak out. I'm just there all the time. And I'm going to call bullshit on you, because that's not true, because we all are guilty of this. I mean, I'm bringing this to the table because I see where I'm guilty of it as well, in multiple ways. So it is really just about how the boundaries that I'm really calling bullshit on are our internal boundaries and structures that we put on ourselves, preventing ourselves from being us up front. But and that is like us with like our children, our partners, our friends, In my case, like my online community, my local community, how can I, all those things of just actually authentically being right in it right here. Okay. So, and just letting it kind of be open, be human. We live in a world where it's like everything has to look professional and perfect all the time, but that makes us feel so disconnected and unloved, and we don't trust anything or anybody. And when we have these feelings of lack of trust and as though there are all these constrictions and things around us, it makes it really hard for us to even lean in and trust God, the world, the universe. Because, if we're not trusting, then we're just not trusting. And what it is that we're not trusting ourselves. So ultimately, everything always comes back to us, and we're not trusting ourselves. So if you're feeling like you just don't trust people in your life, come back and say, hey, where am I not trusting myself? You're probably going to find that you're not trusting yourself to make the right decisions, to really feel into the situation right. You're not trusting your own emotions, your own feelings, what your body is trying to tell you, signs around you, messages. Maybe you're just not trusting. Typically, it's you're not going to trust the decisions that you make. You're scared to make that decision, and then you start just not trusting anybody else. So you are actually pointing these little fingers of blame out, like, well, if that person was more trustworthy, then I could make a better decision here. If that person was this, then I could do that, And I mean, I just yesterday, so intimacy share, just yesterday I was telling a friend about a relationship, and I was saying, I just don't trust this person. I just don't trust the scenario. So I'm kind of like doing, like I'm loving the way this person's showing up, but because they haven't been showing up like this for a number of years, I don't trust this thing that they're doing. I love it, but I don't trust it. And the truth of the matter is I can say I don't trust it, I don't trust that person, I don't trust that, right? But here's the thing, what's really being stated is that I don't trust me in that, because I don't know, I've made the, in my opinion, wrong decision, wrong choice, and trusted it before, and then allowed this to happen or that to happen. So I can see that I did that. And then I go, ooh, I don't want to make the wrong choice again, right? Because I don't want to get hurt. Well, that's what all of it comes down to. We don't want to feel pain. We don't want to get hurt. And ultimately, we can try to blame everybody else. But in truth, it all comes back to our decisions, our choices. And do we trust ourselves? Can we just lean in and like make it happen right there in that moment? So look at those things where you're kind of pointing those fingers out, and I actually like would give this as a tidbit of homework this morning of like, take a journal and write out, if I knew that I was fully supported by God, the universe, how would I be living my life? What would the relationships that I have look like? Like write it from that perspective and see what you can come up with as far as like what your life picture would be looking like, and then come back and see where that detachment is happening, okay? Because that detachment is going to give you a lot of understanding into what's going on in your world. But back to like my daughter and stuff. Back to that is that, like her request, there is also, and when I read, I keep looking for my phone, and my phone's right in front of me. It's hilarious. I'm like, to get the wording right on this text, what was the wording? Obviously, I can't do that. More coffee. See, my coffee says, kiss me, I'm caffeinated. I'm not caffeinated yet. So back to the daughter comment here around her text, because her text is a text of an unconditional love, and that she's not wanting to necessarily jump into a relationship with this guy again. I know that she still loves him. She loves him dearly. It's one of those, I get it. It's one of those loves that it's going to take a while, or we'll see what happens with it. Who knows? It might come back around, right? But her text was basically this unconditional love, and there was some understanding, compassion, compassion for her ex-boyfriend's humanness, compassion for, you know, the situation that he has gotten himself in, understanding that maybe from the outside perspective he doesn't deserve it, and he certainly probably is going to feel like he doesn't deserve it, but that she's wanting to still reach out and help him. And she knows that I can baseball bat him and that he'll probably take it from me. But and here's the thing. When you actually love somebody, and you can actually set down your shit and still do something to help that person, and in that there is forgiveness that is taking place, and in those moments, it's like you're working on the forgiveness of self for allowing these situations to happen, right? Because everything is always a two-way street. But then you're also showing forgiveness to that person. So when I read her text this morning, I saw that she's wanting to show him unconditional love. She's wanting to just give to him, and she's wanting to also show that she is forgiving, and that she is working through her own stuff instead of coming at it from the state of ego that would be, well, you deserve that, right? You had that one coming. You treated me like this, so you had that one coming. And I don't know. I always am like that person that I'm so quick to forgive. I don't forget, but I do forgive very, very easily. And obviously my kid kind of takes after me on this one, for better or for worse. There you have it. But it is really, truly that unconditional. And here's the thing. Boundary again, right inside ourselves. We have this boundary, which actually is not really a boundary. It typically, I think for the majority of us, it's not a real boundary. It is one that we have bought from society, that when you break up, that you cannot have any more of a relationship with this person, that it is not okay to help, work through, feel, be compassionate to, that you must be angry, you must be mad, you must hold this anger for that person from now until whenever, that you can't just let it go. Well, as long as you're holding on to it, remember that if I'm speaking to you right now because you're in a relationship, that you just got out of a relationship and you're angry about it, or maybe you're in another relationship but you're still pissed off about the other relationship prior or whatever, realize that the more you hold on to that anger, the more you hold on to that bitterness, that lack of forgiving, that you're doing nobody any good, but most of all, you're not doing yourself good. And that's like, you're not forgiving yourself, and having these little acts of like, no, I can still show compassion for that person doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get back together with them. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. That's not what is the point. The point is that being able to go, hey, that's real shit that you're in. I'm sorry that happened, you know, but you know, here's some advice, here's some help, here's some whatever. Maybe it's just a listening ear. Maybe it's just sending off a prayer. It doesn't much matter. Everybody's going to have a different scenario there, finding what that scenario is, but actually just allowing yourself to feel in that moment and give that unconditional love, which is an unconditional space of connection and of humanness there. Okay, so just to be able to go, that is a nasty, you know, hand you got dealt there in this moment. That is this, that is that. And just accepting of it and putting down your shit, because as long as you're holding it, as long as you're carrying that stuff around, it is creating these internal boundaries that are actually armor from preventing you from tapping into here, your most important source next to your, it's like this is your GPS system to your soul right here, And if you can't tap into this, then you're not going to be able to really allow life to bring you things. You're not going to be able to really receive, make the right moves. And then, yeah, you probably do have major trust issues, because if you can't trust in here, which means that you're holding like little fences around and maybe armor up and around, that's going to be a heck of a lot harder to actually trust what's coming from here. But you've got to kind of make these decisions as to, because sometimes, I mean, I could look at my daughter's text and also go, okay, well, she wants the relationship back, right? Because she's still madly in love with this young man and blah, 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 and all this sort of stuff, which, yeah, but she probably does. She probably does. It's a new breakup, so she probably wants that. I'm not gonna lie about that one. But if she's doing her internal work, then what she's gonna come down to is that unconditional love still rules. Figuring out what her heart's desires are, doing her work, working on her, seeing her fault in what's gone on, all that kind of stuff. That is, and still being able to provide this space of, maybe that was crap that you did, your decisions were poor, but still being able to go, I can still be compassionate about it. I can still have empathy around this. I can still love through it. But it doesn't mean that I have to make this decision or that decision. I can just experience that love, that unconditionalness, and actually go, hey, here's a helping hand, right? Like, here, talk to mom in her case, right? Like, talk to mom. So yeah, but we tend to get all these boundaries around our relationships, and we really, I mean, we look at it. The other thing, kind of like this topic can go into, is because relationship boundaries, like, if anybody's read, like, has read an article called The Home Team, and, you know, like, if you read that, or if you've watched any of my stuff or know me, you know that I have very close relationships with all my kids, and every relationship is a little bit different, but I have these relationships with my children that the majority of people don't have with their children, and I know my kids very, very, very well, and they can tell me anything, and even if I'm not happy with their decisions, I'm always there, and I don't punish them for their decisions necessarily very much at all, like, because they're pretty good at punishing themselves, like they're beating themselves up, and so I'm just trying to constantly hold space for them and give them guidance and letting life teach them, and them just learn from that. Well, the majority of the time we put boundaries around our parenting of, I can't have this discussion with my kid, I must act this way with my kid because this is the way society expects me to act with my child, right? So, like, you do this and I ground you, you do this, I take your phone away, you do this, you know, like, whatever those things are. Look at those kinds of boundaries, and I'm using parenting as an example here, but there's typical parenting, and that typical parenting is a very cookie cutter style, but it does not provide compassion and love and safe space to the child. So what happens is the child ends up rebelling more than what they actually even probably desire to. They feel disconnected from the parent. They don't feel safe. They don't feel like they can trust their parent, because they figure that their parent's only going to come after them and you know, like, punish them and stuff, instead of being able to have the safe space of connecting and opening up and sharing, whatever that might be. Hold on, I hear somebody behind my back. Oh, just a kid, just a kid, just a 12-year-old kid. Levi's up. His alarm goes off for like a minute, and it's the loudest thing. Oh my God, I swear it probably wakes up everybody on my street. But, so yeah, so looking at those boundaries, like, a lot of those boundaries really are bullshit, because when you look at it, you might go, and I've heard parents say this, you know, oh my gosh, I remember when I was a kid and I was doing so much worse, blah, 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 but I'm not going to tell them about that. I'm going to, like, be the tough parent, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And that's bullshit right there. Like, that's total bullshit. You'd be better off just telling your kid, like, I remember when I was that age, and here's some of the shit that I did. Like, my kids know all my stories. They know everything. Like, it is just like we're very open and authentic and clean in those conversations. But we don't do that in any of our relationships, truly. Hi, love. Don't do any of that in our relationships, really. So we tend to block consistently. We create these boundaries, and it's like, no, I can't discuss this with you. I can't discuss that with you. I have to act this way with this person, but I can act this way with that person. And you see, these are all these what I'm calling bullshit on. It's like, just be you. Just be you. And here's the thing, you should notice, like, if you're not being you, this is what will happen. You will find that when you're around one person, you act this way. When you're around another person, you act this way. So there's different yous showing up. And if there's consistently different yous, if you're noticing that there's different yous showing up, then you're not really tapping into you. Okay, you're not really you. Because the me that you see right here at 6 a.m. without her coffee, my goofy little quirks, my gestures, everything that I do, my thinking, you could talk to anybody in my life, and everybody's going to be like, no matter what the relationship is, everybody's going to be like, yep, that's who she is. Like, that's just her. That's just her. Because this is just me. I don't change for the relationship. I don't create those boundaries. And what that allows is for people to feel less judgment, more connection, more unconditional love. They can actually trust in me that I'm going to just be me. So there's no question of, well, is this okay or that okay? I mean, yeah, they might worry about, like, what's your mood? Because I have my weak spots, right? Like, I'm not necessarily really great at asking, at delegation, at asking for what I need and those things. But I'm always going to show up the same no matter what. So that's me being me in a relationship is just me in a relationship. And here's the funny thing, me not in a relationship is still just me. So no matter what, whether there's somebody around, whether it's a group, one person, a lover, a kid, a friend, a sibling, a total stranger, or I'm just by myself, it's still always just, this is all I get. Like, this is it. You see what you get. And we say that you see what you get, but do you really mean that? Can you really truly authentically say that you were that 100%? So if you're not showing up in every relationship the same, and if you're completely different when you're alone than you are when you're around somebody, if you are meeting strangers and you're kind of like putting on this, like, boom, like, this is the picture I want to paint you, then here's your relationship boundaries to explore. Because the relationship boundaries that you're needing to explore are the ones that you're setting up inside yourself. Like, what are those boundaries about anyways? What are you so scared of revealing? Like, just go be you. Go be you. So yeah. Okay, it's getting late. So I want you guys to really kind of just like focus in on what it would be like if you said that you could completely trust in the universe. Like, what would that feel like? How would you completely show up in life, in relationship, and kind of jot down and look at the relationships that you have and notice, like, sometimes just like write down the relationship name, write down self, and notice, like, what are how are those top 3 things how you show up in that relationship. Like, do you show up reserved but always happy? In this relationship, is this your, like, a victim relationship over here where you're just constantly just like, oh, I'm just poor me, blah, 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 blah. And granted, there is certain safety that we might feel in relationships. So every relationship is going to be different. We're going to be able to express ourselves a little bit differently and have these different pieces of ourselves show up. But I'm talking about the core personality. Your core personality, is it the same in all relationships? Okay, because that's what we're looking at. We're not going necessarily deep down. Like, I'm not going to have a deep, intimate discussion with one person. Actually, that's not true. Like, I have deep, intimate discussions with everybody, but for the majority of people out there, you're probably not going to have a deep, intimate discussion with a total stranger that you would have with, like, your best friend. But can you have that that intimate relationship with that in conversation across the board in different ways? Can you actually reveal these little nuggets about yourself in different ways? Can you laugh at yourself in all your relationships, or do you really have like these certain relationships where you feel extreme structure and that you just cannot just have a little bit of humor in your life, a little bit like, like, can you share those funny little quirks about yourself in different ways? Like all those things. Look at that. What are those key components of you and that really come back to like, who are you when you're all by yourself? And then look at in the other relationships where those boundaries are coming up. And what you might notice is that there's in no relationship that you're letting out certain things. And then if you're really feeling disconnected from things, maybe it's as simple as, well, I'm just not showing up 100% me in the most important relationships in my life. So I'm really not showing up there. And what you might find out is that just by having those little changes, like allowing yourself, quite often it's quite like laugh at ourselves because we have such an ego barrier around that, like if we just all of a sudden say, it's okay to laugh at myself. It's okay to do this. It's okay to do that. That can just lighten the load, and we're showing up differently, and we're lighter, and we're more joyous, and we're feeling more connected because we're allowing people to actually connect to us. So I'm picking on that. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but go explore you and go let you out and tap in and look for those areas that you're not being unconditional with yourself, with others. Where can you show some forgiveness, some love? Where can you just learn how to hold space? And often that means holding space with yourself, because that's the practice ground, right? You gotta be able to hold space with yourself so that you can hold space with somebody else. You've got to be able to fall in love with your own humanness so that you can be in love with everybody else's humanness. You've got to be able to forgive yourself first so you can forgive the people in your life that seemingly have wronged you as well. And, be your own cheerleader so that you can cheer others. If you're just cheering others and you're not cheering yourself, well, then you're missing the most important person. So all of it always comes down to you. You are the most important person. So go fall in love with you. Go fall in love with you today. I'm not going to make any announcements this morning other than please hit the share button. Please, please, please hit the share button. Help me get this conscious coffee out and about. We had a pretty good number of people on here today that I saw. So thank you everybody who showed up. Thank you, Mr. Anatoly, for all your love here. And thank you everybody else for just watching and listening. Again, hit the share button. Hit the share button. Please leave any comments, observations, questions that you want that might come up later here in the thread, or you can pop me a message or anything. And if you just enjoyed this, there's plenty of other conscious coffees here on this page, and there's tons of articles on my website as well, which is tantrictransformation.com. Okay, I will catch you guys tomorrow around 6 a.m. ish, and remember, stop existing and start living. Bye, guys.